Let us now understand why digital marketing. So when we talk about digital marketing, we need to understand certain scenarios that came into picture before digital marketing happened, right? And what is it that has changed digital marketing? So I'm going to talk about certain history pointers as to what are the things that influenced digital marketing with time, right? And parallelly, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to also talk about what catalyzed digital marketing in recent times, what has catalyzed digital marketing in recent times. Okay, so we'll talk about all these pointers at a stretch. So if you all are not aware about as to when digital marketing came into place, well, the history of digital marketing is not very old. The reason for that is it was in 90s that digital marketing started picking up. I mean, there were some traces that started in 90s, and that is where we actually started using digital marketing to a very great stretch, or that is where we actually started investing in digital marketing. One of the major reasons for that was in 1990s or in 1990 we had Web 1.0 that was launched. What Web 1.0 did was it allowed people to take a look at the data that was there on internet. During this time, we still did not have a lot of power to go ahead and put data there. We had power to go ahead and take a look at the data. So it was in 1990s that people realized that we could use internet, we could use online platforms to take a look at information, right? I mean, even if I go back to my school days, back then too we did not have technology developed enough where we could go ahead and use a lot of internet. Its usage was limited. But then I come from a country called as India, so I mean there have been other countries that have actually moved on with internet very early or earlier than we did. But we'll come to those pointers. That's not the discussion for now. For now, what we are trying to discuss is how did digital marketing evolve with time, right? Or what led to the starting of digital marketing? How did it start and what all did happen there, right? So we are talking about 1990s when we had Web 1.0, right? Where you could not put forth your data there, but take a look at the data that was there. Okay, so until then, marketers were still not sure, as in should we go for digital marketing platforms, should we start using them? But it was around 1993 that we had our first clickable banner, okay, which was made live, and there was a company called as Hotwired that purchased these banner ads. And this is where the advertising using digital media, I mean, one of the first instances when we actually had proper investment in digital marketing, where people started using digital marketing, okay? And it was the next year that we actually started a lot of people investing in digital marketing, right? And it was the same year, that is 1994, that we saw Yahoo. I'm sure many of you remember what Yahoo is and how it came into place. So it was around that year that we had Yahoo coming in picture, right? And then sooner we started people putting forth their websites where they could put forth their data, and this was around 1996, okay? Our favorite browser, I'm not sure if it is for you, but many people love this browser, that is our Google browser, right? It was launched, Google was launched in 1998, and I'm sure that this changed the world. 3 years before Google, we also had something called as Amazon. So guys, these are some of the things that came into picture, right? And they changed our world in a way that we all are witnessing these days. Now, currently we are in the, we would be entering into the third, or we are into the third decade of the 20th century. So we'd be soon entering into the third decade rather. So we would be actually are the best people to actually go ahead and tell how digital marketing has evolved and how things have changed. Again, we'll come to those pointers as we move further. But talking about the history, this is how it evolved. Around 1990s, we had the first web browser. Then we saw that in 1993, we had clickable ads. Mosaic was launched in 1993. 1994 saw the birth of Yahoo, which was very popular then, right? Before Google came into picture, right? And then websites like Amazon, eBay, as I mentioned, they were launched in 1995. Hotmail was launched in 1996, and this is where the internet revolutionized the usage or the method of reaching out to people, right? But again, this is when all these platforms were fairly new and were still not reachable to a lot of people. And if you talk about developed countries, yes, the internet started making its waves. We had companies like Pizza Hut and Domino's selling pizzas, taking deliveries online, right? So yes, there were ways of reaching out to people digitally, but we could not cover the majority of the world back then. And there was a major reason for it. That reason was the usage of internet. Now, when you talk about internet is something that was there back then as well, but it was not reachable to the masses, right? So with the advent of Android phones in early 2000s, right? Or it was late 2000s rather, right? Around 2006, 7, 8, right? These were the times when multimedia started getting popular, right? Internet was fairly established. And then we had these Android phones coming into market where we could actually go ahead and buy stuff online. So not just buy stuff online, we could do so many things there, right? We could share images with people. We could actually go ahead and send videos to them, do video calls, right? Apart from that, we had Google Maps, which was so easily accessible on your phone now. You could look for the favorite locations that you want to go to. Then various websites came into picture, various applications came into picture. In India, you had applications like Zomato, Swiggy, which delivered food to your home, right? You had Amazon was already there. Then you had Flipkart in India. Again, websites that could sell products to you. And with the usage of internet increasing, they realized that the market was very large that they could cover. And when you talk about a country like India, where 1 billion people live in, right? If you market a product, and even if there's a chance of like selling it to 1% of the population, it is way more than what you could be selling in other countries, right? Because we're talking about 2 countries in the world that have like 1 billion worth of population. So if you can target one of those countries, you are flourishing like anything, right? So yes, that is what companies also realized. But the main catalyst in India especially came in was in 2015, 2016. This is when Reliance Jio, a mobile network that started giving internet to people at a cheaper cost, right? So you could buy those SIM cards and do free calls and have free internet, and this was valid for 6 months. They managed to acquire major telecom industry in India during that phase, capture all the leads that they could. And what this did was, we saw millions of accounts being created on Facebook, Instagram, and there you go. A country like India was now digital in nature. You could send messages to people, right? You could reach out to people. You could call them using these internet services. And the fact that internet was cheaper, people started using internet. And this is where businesses in India realized that they could actually go ahead and potentially utilize digital media. Now, as I've mentioned already, these things were developed or had access in developed countries earlier. So they had a fair bit of share in digital marketing earlier. But in India especially, it was around 2016 that we saw digital marketing getting catalyzed to a very great extent. And currently, we live in an era where digital marketing is a must. And there are so many things that we can do using digital marketing, which are very important. I've given you an example, right? I mean, we talked about the artist thing, but there are quite a few other things that you can do with digital marketing. As we move further, we would be discussing that along the course of time. Just the fact that if you talk about digital marketing like 10 years back from now, the resources were limited that we had access to, and we could not do all of these things at a greater pace or at a wider scale. Now we can. Let me give you one more example to establish this claim. Okay, if you go back like 15 years back from now, when the access to internet was limited, right? So we used to believe in face-to-face buying of products, face-to-face dealing with things, right? So in order to buy a particular product, let me give you an example of my childhood. I'm sure many of you can relate to this. In order to buy a particular product, I used to visit a shop. Now I come from a town place which was not very developed, isn't or wasn't a big city where you could just visit malls and do stuff. And in those days we did not have this these malls being very trendy, right? We had our normal shops. We used to visit these bazaars in India, which are nothing but your shopping marketplaces. So in order to buy a particular piece of cloth, we used to go there. We would have certain set of shops. We knew that they would give you good stuff. We would just go to them and tell them that, okay, this is what we need, and they would present a particular set of options for us, as in, okay, these are the ones you can choose from and these would fit you best. These are the color options we have, and we used to buy those. So in those days, the marketing used to happen in a way where we had a person telling us, okay, this is the best fabric that we got, this is where we've got this fabric from, and you can buy that, right? So this was basically face-to-face marketing, where people used to sell products by convincing certain things to you. The world has changed now, isn't it? I mean, if I want to buy a piece of cloth, let's assume I want to buy a blazer or a jacket, right? What I can do is I can go online and probably I can look for a variety of options. Now the market reach for me has increased. I don't have to be limited to the town that I live in, right? Why? Because in that town, probably in order to buy good clothes, I had to visit those 4 or 5 shops to choose one, and I would get limited options. To the max, if I wanted to shop, I would travel to some other place and then shop those things, right? In India, the place where I lived in, that was close to a city called as Mumbai. So whenever we used to travel to Mumbai, we used to shop whatever we wanted, something that we did not get in our native place. But now, given the fact that we have digital marketing, I don't have to wait, or I don't have to wait for me to go to these places and get my products, right? I don't have to wait for all these things. What I do is I just fire up my systems. Maybe it can be my mobile phone, my laptop. I look for these websites where if I want to buy something, I can actually go ahead and browse it, order it, and that gets delivered to my place. Let's assume that somebody is getting married, right? In India, marriages are very high. So when I say high, I mean people invest a lot of money in marriages. People want to make it very grand. So normally what we see is people buying different stuffs from different regions. They want to have different themes. So how do you get all these things? Now let's assume that a Bengali sari is fairly popular. You won't want to go to Bengal and buy these things, right? You can just order that online these days, right? We talk about South Indian silk, which again is very popular, right? Or if you want to buy a popular lehenga that you get in Delhi, you don't always have to go to Delhi now. You can order these things online, right? Because now the world is accessible using the internet, and people can deliver products to you. You can reach out to people using internet and they will deliver products to you physically. That is how it works, right? Not just this, not just the shopping part. If you talk about sharing ideas, right? If you talk about doing your work, COVID-19 is a very good example. All of us have been working from home, and since we all have been working from home, we all have been using cloud platforms, we have been using internet to reach out to people and do numerous things that we want to. And what that means is, since we can do all these things online, we can reach out to people online, we can share information online, even the businesses are easier to operate even though we are at home, right? We fire up our Google Meets, we fire up our Google Hangouts, and what we do is we can reach out to people using these online mediums, right? So that is what these digital media have done, and this is how digital marketing has influenced this world. So I believe by now we've talked a lot about why do we need digital marketing and how it has evolved.